So, welcome to the podcast of Sexy Aging. I've got double trouble, boom for my buck. Is that what we say? Double trouble. We've got Claire and James Davis from the Midlife Mentors team, and also you share a multi award winning coaching and fitness company called 38 Degrees North. Okay, who's talking first?
Oh, me. I always talk first.
Let's go, James. So,
The
love to
bonus
hear.
attention.
Yeah, you guys focus on midlife health and training and wellness and kind of the stuff that I'm really into, and that's why we're having a conversation. So tell us about how you kind of thought, well, this might be a good avenue to go towards with your health and fitness backgrounds.
Sure. So we started our fitness retreat company, 38 Degrees North, back in 2011, I think. Basically, the concept of running luxury fitness escapes, starting in Ibiza, and now we run them, or we did run them before COVID, in Ibiza and Marbella with pop-up events in London. So that was like our core business. We started to notice that our clientele was kind of skewing slightly older. Like we're old. I'm nearly 49. You're 41.
No, 42.
42. I was going to forget your birthday.
He always sasays I'm a year younger than I am, which is actually very sweet.
Claire, you're a baby, Claire.
He is a baby.
Yeah.
But we noticed our clientele was kind of like mid-30s upwards. We were seeing like similar themes for people. So then we're like, actually, like how are we looking after our bodies? What are the things we do? What can we share with people to help them on this journey in midlife? Because especially like with, not so much with clients, but with friends, we're seeing them kind of go, wow, I just accept the expanding waistline, the creaky joints,
Yeah.
like it's downhill from here. And we're like, no, it doesn't have to be, right? There's stuff you can start doing for your mind, your body, and your emotional state to make this a great time of your life. So that's really
Yeah.
where it came from.
Oh, I really love the idea. I was going to ask you, what does 38 Degrees North stand for? So now I've got it. And I've been to Ibiza twice.
Yay!
I went for
Amazing.
my girlfriend's 50th birthday. It was off the chain. We had such a great time. Yeah, we don't have that mindset or that mentality of you hit a certain age and it's like, "Rrr." Like we're like, okay, so what are the things that bring us joy? For
Yeah.
us and our friends, it's dance, music, and that expression to be creative. So, and I think if you hold on to those little things, right, that the things that bring you joy, then yeah, okay, your body is, biologically, physiologically aging, but you've got so much going on up here, and of course you
Yeah.
can strip away all the bullshit, and it's life is fabulous. So, I'm really loving that you guys are starting to think, think beyond what happens from here because it could be really amazing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't understand. We call it the second act of your life, but it can be really, really exciting, and it really, really does come down to mindset. And I think one of the things we noticed a lot is that we heard once that when you get to midlife, a lot of people stop behaving obviously in the way that they used to in their 20s. When you're in your 20s and 30s, and you're playing to win, you've got like excitement, you've got a goal, you're kind of, you're feeling, okay, what's going to fulfill me for the future? But when you get to midlife, you start playing not to lose the things that you've gathered around you that you think define you, all the stuff, all the material possessions, all those sorts of things.
yeah,
And then so many people become terrified of losing those things if they take any risks, if they do anything outside the box. So I suppose it's about helping people, midlifers, feel safe that they can start taking smaller risks and actually start enjoying life again, rather than keeping themselves locked in this box, this self-identity that a lot of the time doesn't work for them anymore.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is they've had so much life experience, but they still want to stay in the box. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you make that happen? How do you make that happen for the rest of your life? You've got skills, compassion, empathy, life experience. Things should be looking really good right now, but it's like, no, I don't want to lose this. I completely understand what you guys are sharing. I don't want to lose this comfort, and then but
Comfort.
I'm quite happy to expand the waistline while I sit in my comfort box. I'm like, no. Life
Yeah,
is for
yeah.
living and get out there and enjoy it. So, well, this is going really well. So, what do you do other than the retreats? Because, like, that's not happening right now.
No, exactly.
Sadly, that's not happening right now. No. So the other thing we do is coaching, right? And obviously it's mainly like online or virtual coaching. So we developed actually towards the end of 2019, like our midlife method, like an 8-week program that is all about body, mind, and spirit. So what we found is like a lot of approaches out there focus on what we call like the external. So they'll work on, you've got the diet or you've got the workout and the diet. But the reason those approaches fail is, what we're just talking about, you're not working on the inner work, like working on your limiting beliefs, working on your self-identity, believing you can become that person, and working towards a more positive mindset, actually thinking, rather than going, oh, I just want to be like slimmer or I want to be fitter, going, what's my goal? What do I want from life? And what's going to drive me there? And recognizing like everything interplays, right? And with, science is finding this out more and more. Our gut is our second brain. What we eat affects our mood, affects our emotional state. So, it's putting it all together and working with like all the hormonal changes that are going on at midlife to really, really like cement in this package of change that lasts.
Well, it actually started with, because we were working with midlifers anyway through 38 Degrees North. And then we kept seeing all these similarities with our friends and our clients. And then we thought, hang on a minute, should we do a podcast? So that's where it actually started. So beginning of 2019, we decided to get our podcast out there called the Midlife Mentors. It was really basic. I think it probably still, I still do all the editing, but it was, I think
so do I.
It's very, it's very, very real, it's a very authentic, real take. It's James and I, we have guest people on now, but it was a really authentic take on how we see midlife from that body, mind and soul perspective. And then from then on, it was like, hang on, we're onto something here. We're really helping people. We're really getting the message out there, and the response was lovely. So that's when we came up with the midlife method and the online side of our business, because obviously as well, because we couldn't run any of the fitness holiday stuff. And it just went from there. It's been quite a beautiful journey for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And you're helping so many people in their lockdown status. Yeah, there's a lot of science and stuff that's now coming out. Like if I'm kind of down the rabbit hole of menopause, the menopause transition, and if you've seen my podcast, a lot of episodes actually do talk about menopause, and I kind of happen to fall into that conversation, and I'm actually in that transition myself. So, there is a lot of science that's coming out around how the lockdown, the pandemic and everything has affected menopausal women, right? And we'll be seeing some really interesting data and stats, I'm sure, coming out pretty soon. Not just the physical changes, definitely the mental changes. Everyone can accept that. If there's one thing that's been really amazing from the pandemic, it's how much it's shone a light on the importance of mental health. I think we can sort of all agree on that. And you guys are already on top of that with your holistic programming, mind, body, and spirit. So that sounds awesome. I'm going to check it out. I want to get onto the hormone conversation. Here we go. Right.
Yes.
So it's good to have both of you here. So I'll ask a couple of questions to both of you. Claire, you're in the early stages, and you know what I'm really excited about for you, Claire? When I was 41, I had no freaking idea. I'd never even heard of the word perimenopause. So I started to experience symptoms at 47. By 48, I'd figured out that's probably what it was, but I went through a year of hell. I'm so excited that you know so much more than I ever did at 41. How do you feel about what you now know and how that helps you help other people?
I love that question because, I was doing a lot of work with women going through the perimenopause and menopause before I even started experiencing any symptoms myself. And I think women aren't necessarily even aware, like you said, really on in their 40s even, or even late 30s or early 40s, of some of the hormonal changes that are creating some of the emotional side really. So I am experiencing certain aspects of it. My sleep has been all over the place recently. It could be down to lots of different things, but
Yeah.
emotionally, definitely me understanding what's going, like you said, me understanding what might be going on with the changes in my hormones, my testosterone, my estrogen, my insulin, my cortisol, all of that, and how they're interplaying gives me a lot more compassion for myself, to be honest. My body's not behaving all the time in the way it used to. And, I would say that to women that I was working with, but unless you have started experiencing it, it puts a different spin on it. It puts a different edge on it. So, I'm having a lot more compassion for what I'm experiencing right now. And I've seen a lot of women go through it, so I know what to expect. And that does really, really help. But also the lifestyle factors that I've got dialed in, that I already had dialed in anyway, but that does change a little bit as you're coming into your mid-40s. So my long answer, I suppose, is the compassion, the understanding, the doing different things. So I'm not doing so much really, really hard cardio. I'm pulling back a bit. I'm going for longer walks. I'm listening to my body more.
Yeah. And isn't that so nice to wake up some days, and you're probably like me, you probably schedule your workouts. You go, okay, I'm going to do these 2 weight training sessions, and then I'm going to do that sprint hit class, and then I'm going to do that yoga session, going to go for a walk with my friend, blah, 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 blah. There is one day out of the 7 that's in my training schedule that I wake up and I go, no, I'm not going to do that. And I don't feel one iota of guilt, right? Isn't that the coolest thing?
Yeah,
that's the best thing.
Well, I got up and did that yesterday. So yesterday morning, I woke up and I'd scheduled in my gorgeous run around Hampstead Heath and some hill sprints afterwards. And I woke up and I was like, nah, that is not happening. My body does not want that this morning. And I love my body. I respect my body. It's beautiful. So this is the place that we get, hopefully, this is how, us women talking about this will hopefully help other people feel like that about themselves when they wake up and think, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk instead. So I went for a nice walk with our dog, and not one bit of guilt. I loved it. I loved it. I thought, what can I get out of this? Instead of the run where you're flying past everything, how can I really, really take this as a beautiful moment? So,
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, James.
I'm here.
Here we go. The whole, menopause conversation. Now, you sent me a message along the lines of male menopause, the 2 words I jumped on top of. And I haven't had a guy guest on my podcast since episode 10, maybe 23 episodes ago. And that was my husband. So he kind of had to do it. And we did a really fun episode where I listed the 34 symptoms that, the normal 34 symptoms that, come under perimenopause. And I was in one city and he was in Malaysia at the time, and I was in New Zealand, and we did it like a distance podcast like this. Cool. And I went through and listed every single symptom and asked him, out of all these ones, which did I have? And I had 27, and he got every single one right. And he gave examples as well. How cool is that? How dialed in are you, James?
I'm pretty dialed in. I mean, obviously, like, this is the area we work in, so we're both certified menopause practitioners, and I think it really helps. I encourage all men out there to kind of like understand it a bit. If you were in a relationship with a woman, like, it's important you understand what's going on for them, definitely, because once you understand it, you can bring compassion to it. Otherwise, you're just not really sure what's going on. We've talked about some of the emotional, psychological, the changes that women experience, and if you're a bit unaware of it, it could make it tricky for you. So having that awareness around it, it definitely helps in the relationship, and open communication. So it's great you and your hubby had that conversation. I love that. Yeah,
it was quite funny actually. We had so much fun, but it was also a moment for both of us thinking, in hindsight, like, now that we're talking about it, I remember that, but I don't remember linking it to perimenopause or we never had that conversation before. I didn't say the words, and there were things that were happening that, did affect our relationship. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, oh shit, I wish I knew that, I wish I could have said to him, oh, I think this is probably perimenopause, or here's the science, because we're in the fitness industry as well, so it's like the science to support, bad moods and low libido and all those things that kind of really piss you off, and you can't explain it to your significant other. So yeah, but well, you're a rock star, James. That's absolutely awesome. If you're on top of it, which is very cool. So what's the male equivalent? Like, there probably is something, and I just haven't spent the time looking. So can you enlighten me? Yeah.
It definitely is. And I think like the things you just touched on there about all those things, men suffer from that too. So imagine like if you're in a relationship and both of you are suffering from those things, but you're not communicating it and not understanding what's happening, that could really be a cocktail for like a lot of friction. So it's really good if you are in a relationship to like talk about this stuff. But for men, so the andropause it's called, which is the male menopause.
Sorry, say that again. Andropause.
Andropause. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Andropause.
cool. Learning. I'm learning.
Basically, what's happening for men, it's not dissimilar to what's happening for women. It's driven by our hormones. So basically, our testosterone production, which is our male sex hormone, like peaks in its 20s and then steadily declines. So by the time we're hitting our late 40s, early 50s, it can be between like 30 to 50% lower than it was in our 20s. Now, obviously, testosterone plays a role in our libido, our energy, our vitality, but also plays a role in our muscular strength, regenerating our tissue, our bone density, even like our brain function. So, what men can suffer from, but the thing is, for women, I think it happens like faster. It's more of a faster drop off, so it's more noticeable. Whereas for men, it's this gradual thing. And what a lot of men I speak to say is like, they're going along, and they suddenly have this kind of like moment where they're like almost observing themselves, going, "Oh, what's happened here?" Because like I can't get up, I can't get the energy. I'm not really got the libido. I haven't got my sexual drive. I'm not as strong as I was, and it's kind of this like awakening that something's changed. They're not quite able to put their finger on it. And of course, that will affect relationships as well. If the guy's starting to feel like he's losing identity, because for a lot of men, their identity is wrapped up in this kind of like physical aspects.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the inevitability is that with age, those do decline unless we do something about it. And there is stuff we can do with lifestyle factors. So they can start to, and at the moment, it's like the midlife crisis for men is still seen, unfortunately, as a bit of a joke. You've got a stereotype of the guy like goes out, buys the open top sports car and starts wearing
heads
like,
off to the nightclub, hooks up with a 20-year-old. Yeah, we've all seen it. And then the mirror to that, the female is, and so for the guys, it's kind of like woohoo, but for the woman, it's like now she's old and grumpy and mean. you know.
But if you think about psychology, what's going on, the guy is like, that's a desperate cry to try and reclaim that youth that's passed, because he's not understanding what's happened here and how to work with it. It's like, I want to feel like I did in my 20s. So yeah, sports car and younger model.
Yeah, and also I think, that lack of communication, what you said earlier, right? The beginning talking about andropause, it's that communication between the male and the female, talking about how they're experiencing this time in their life, and how they're being impacted by it. He's experiencing this woman feeling confused, her body not behaving the way she used to, not feeling comfortable in her own skin, not really knowing what's going on, feeling very lonely and alienated, not feeling like she's comfortable speaking to the man like that. And then the man feels pushed away. He's experiencing his whole cocktail of emotions, and then that's where that stereotypical thing of, well, I'm not feeling attractive, I'm going to look outside myself to get that validation, whereas us women, we do tend to, we might feel isolated and lonely, but what's amazing is we're talking about perimenopause and menopause a lot more as well, but just as women, we talk about our emotions more. So we do connect with other women, and we pour the wine and sit down and have a little bit of a whinge and feel better within an hour, and just keep doing that. But with guys, I mean, I've had the same discussion with my husband. In actual fact, he probably does talk about this, the ability to connect in with himself and understand what's going on with himself, and then the fact that guys just generally don't have these conversations. But that's got to change, right?
It's got to change
you
though.
know,
We've got to start shining a light on it, and guys have got to start talking about it more, and
yeah,
realizing, I think we always say awareness precedes change. So,
yeah,
if you're not sure what's going on, it's the same for the female menopause. Like you said, if you're completely unaware of what's going on, it's like, oh, well, you think you're going slightly mad, right? Or
yeah,
you're just failing as a person. So there's a lot of how people feel. A lot of the guys I speak to, it's just like, I just don't feel like I'm a person anymore. If we
yeah,
understand what's going on, we can bring compassion to it. If we're like, oh, right,
yeah.
okay, so this is what's happening. I understand that. Here's maybe something I can do with my lifestyle factors,
Yeah, I think just to bring it to real reality here in the UK. Well, in England and Wales, 75% of all the suicides last year were
Yeah.
male.
Oh,
And
well,
I
we've
Majority
got a
middle age.
massively huge suicide rate in New Zealand. Same thing.
and
It's
it's
sort of men,
devastating. Yeah.
sort of 40, 35 plus. And there's, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Where do they get the support? Who do they talk to? Do you even open up? Like there's all those simple things that you can pinpoint and go, well, that's why. Like there's no one to talk to and there's no understanding of the change that's happening. And then, of course, impact that with losing your job, trying to support your family, all those things, right? And you can see it's a cocktail for disaster. So, James, what kind of tips would you give guys that are sort of hitting their mid 40s or potentially about to ram the wall of midlife crisis? How can we prevent that? Like, what do you do?
So, the best advice I can give you is start to look after the only home you have, which is your body, right? So, it really is move it or lose it. So what we want to do, there's a lot of research out there that shows that if we can train, first up, we're losing muscle mass because our testosterone is declining. So we want to start resistance training, definitely, which, might mean hitting the weights in the gym, but you can do it at home with your body weight or simple equipment like kettlebells, but definitely start doing that resistance training. You want to preserve that muscle mass. There's also research that shows if we consistently train in this way with resistance training and HIIT, will temporarily elevate our testosterone levels and our human growth hormone levels. So if we're doing that over time, we can't unfortunately push our base rate back up. But what we can do is effectively slow the rate of decline by keep elevating on a regular basis, day after day after day after day. So guys, start training, if only for that reason, to keep your test levels up, because that's going to have a knock-on effect in the energy you have, in the libido you have, in the drive you have, as well as, making you feel better, feel stronger, and making you look better. Because here's the other thing is, as we lose muscle mass, muscle's metabolically active. So if we're not addressing the nutrition side, of course, as we're burning calories at a slower rate, we're going to put on body fat, which we don't want to do. So we want to preserve that muscle mass, build that strength back up, and just look after the body. And then the flip side of that is start to look at your nutrition side. Avoid high sugar foods that cause inflammation in the body. Watch out for things like phytoestrogen, so stuff like a lot of guys start to eat more and more soy as vegetarian and vegan becomes more, but that can raise the estrogen levels in the body, which is the last thing we want to do when we're trying to keep our testosterone elevated. So just start eating a healthier diet, move your body more, but I'd say as importantly, you've got to do some mindset work, right? Figure out what's going on for you, start setting goals for yourself, personal goals, because so many men I speak to have this kind of almost out of body experience, like you were referring to there. The psychological impact is not just driven by the hormones and the physical changes. It's I'm at this point in my life where I thought I was kind of sold this dream that I'd have everything figured out. I'd be at the pinnacle of my career. I'd have no mortgage. I'd be having the time of my life. But in
Yeah.
fact, Generation X is generation squeezed. It's oh my God, I'm struggling with my career. I'm balancing finances. I'm balancing aging parents, kids,
Teenagers.
teenagers, all this cocktail of pressure. And so the main thing on that is start working on developing a positive mindset by setting micro goals that are things for you, and start managing your stress, because stress really is, not to be dramatic, the silent killer. And the stress hormone cortisol, if we're going through this menopause, male or female, if our cortisol is elevated as well, it's just going to hammer, it's going to intensify all those negative effects we don't want. So we've got to learn to start managing our stress and bringing that down.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for all that, those tips. That's awesome. I know that a lot of women, because I have a massive female following for the podcast, will be so happy to have you, speaking on behalf of the guys. And I know that will help their significant others as well. Actually, it's really interesting that you noted quite a few things there that actually work for menopausal women as well. So, the strength training becomes really important. I'm a massive advocate of like HIIT and cardio, and I've just completely flipped that, right? So I do maximum 45 minutes of HIIT a week, and I divide it up, and my focus is on strength training. So that's probably the same for guys, and it's about getting the testosterone levels back. But the interesting thing on the nutrition is the phytoestrogens, and it's not such the same thing for women. Like, for women, that's something that we might want to include in our nutrition. So therefore, when we're making the salads, I'll have this and he'll have that. And so that's kind of happening in our home as well. So it's really, really cool to hear your perspective on fantastic lifestyle tips for midlife men. I often ask the question, to my guests, what do you do personally that keeps you feeling sexy? Now, the word sexy often gets misconstrued, aligned with sex and porn and everything else, but I feel like it's a mojo. It's a feeling of, I'm living my best life. I'm stepping out. This is me in my, my true essence and authenticity. When I look at you guys chatting, I think that's fucking sexy right there.
Bless you.
Just the fact that you have this open communication with the changes that you're experiencing as a couple, and I think it's wonderful, like it is freaking cool. But individually, what sort of things do you set up for yourself that make you feel sexy? That you're aging, but you go, I'm into this. This is the stuff that makes me feel 100%.
Do you know what it is for me? A lot of it from feeling sexy is about that connection to who I really am, the truth of who I really am. That's what I find really sexy. So feeling more confident of being seen and heard, and reclaiming my power, reclaiming my feminine, divine feminine power makes me feel sexy. So I think that's something that I definitely help women do, or support women to do as well. But finding that in little moments of the day, I get up and I do my rituals, I do my intentions for the day. That makes me feel like in that essence that's not necessarily describable in words, but it's that power within my stomach, and then I carry that throughout the day. That makes me feel sexy. Training definitely makes me feel sexy. I hear you. On the strength training makes me feel so sexy. Like lifting heavy, not lifting heavy to the point where you're not looking after your body and that you're not doing it properly, because I see a lot of women doing that as well. But lifting heavy, looking strong, and inspiring other women to actually do that makes me feel sexy. So
cool.
That's basically reclaiming that divine feminine power within me, and then doing it physically as well in the gym makes me feel sexy.
Love. Okay, James, you're up.
Well, for me, I guess it's probably similar for a lot of people. I find my sexiness is wrapped up in my confidence, right? So I think sometimes I'm confident but not sexy, but you can't be sexy without confidence. So I'm always like Claire, I've got morning rituals I do to set my day, get grounded. But again, it's like training, moving my body. Like I've taken up boxing recently.
Cool.
I think you've got to feel good about yourself, so then you can start to feel sexy and project. So when I'm doing self-care, basically making sure I'm working out, doing the rituals, and it's interesting if I for some reason just fall off with that, or just let it slide a bit, then my sexiness falls as well. So making sure I stay on top of that, and then together, just making sure we communicate and connect and make time for dates.
We're going on a date tonight, aren't we?
Love it. I'm actually just thinking we should have a double date at some point in the future.
Love that.
My husband and I also have the morning rituals. We'll sit down together, and it's really, really quiet in the house. There's nobody awake, and he's got his journaling and I've got mine, and then we'll do a meditation. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool, and it does really connect you to yourself, but also as a couple, which is pretty awesome, isn't it, that you are like-minded in that way? Because it's a lot harder if it's like one person trying to improve themselves and the other person is going through their crisis. That's pretty hard. Yeah. Oh, well, you guys are amazing, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Sexy Aging Podcast. I'm really excited that this episode will be coming out just slightly after World Menopause Day. I have an episode coming out with a really, really good friend that we're both in the same space doing cool stuff, but you guys will follow that same week because I'm doing a double whammy, and I've got the double rockstar team right here. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
It really
Great
has.
to see your smiley face early in the morning.
Thank you so much for having us on.
You guys have an awesome day today. Take care.
Have a great
Take
evening.
care.